Okay, I think if we put this in the computer, you know how it gives a little opinion of the type of game? I think it would probably say that this was a wild game. And it was crazy. It was fun. D4. I was black, so he goes D4. I went knight F6. He goes knight C3. I go G6. He goes E4, taking the center. I go D6. Doing my regular King's Indian. He goes bishop G5. Pinning that knight. I go bishop G7. Protecting the knight. Fianchettoing the bishop. Bishop G7. Yes, sir. He goes E5. Offering a pawn exchange. Here we go. And it just gets crazier from here. He goes E5. I go, let's do the exchange. I saw a video that said the exchange was good for black. So, or at least equal. And so I go D takes E5. He goes D takes E5. I go queen takes queen. Queen takes D1. He goes rook takes D1. And I go knight G4. Oh man, the knight G4, yes. You know why? Because of many reasons. And then he goes knight D5. Oh yeah, and he goes knight D5, getting ready to do all sorts of dangerous things. Like there's my pawn on C7. There was a fork there, you know. He's threatening the fork. So yeah, he goes knight D5. And I go bishop takes E5, which is taking a pawn and protecting that square. And he goes F4. Yeah, he sure does. He pushed those pawns. Wow, those pawns got pushed. Just watch the pawns. I can't believe what happened with those pawns. Just watch. He goes F4. I go bishop D6. You know, I got to keep eyes on that pawn, the forking square. He goes bishop takes E7. Taking a pawn because he can. I go knight E3, and I think that's what surprised him. He goes bishop D6. Oh, sorry, bishop takes D6. I forget what was on D6. Just a pawn. And I go knight takes D1. Taking his rook. Can you believe it? And he goes bishop E5. Oh yeah, threatening my rook. And so I castle. And he thought that was amazing. You could tell he has a bit of a tell, you know. He was quite happy about it. But not for long. You know, at first he's like, oh, yeah, you're in so much trouble. And then, so he goes knight F6. I don't know if it's happened yet. Knight F6 and bishop E5. Yeah, so now, oh yeah. So I think knight F6 is a check, is it not? I should have written a little check. Yeah, so I go king G7. And now he's got this, like, just he's got a discovered check ready to go at any time. But instead he goes G4. He pushes a pawn. Sure, why not? He won the game, so I'm not I'm not judging. He did it. He managed it. But man, he's just pushing pawns like it's no big deal. So no discovered check yet. He just goes G4. And then I go rook D8. Now I'm protecting my knight. And he's starting to get a little sad that things aren't going quite his way. He goes knight F3. I go knight C6. Getting rid of I really want to push that bishop out of the way. get him out, and he goes h4. He doesn't care. I mean, there was nowhere for his bishop to go, but I mean, he goes h4. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna knight takes e5. I gotta take that bishop. Now the discovered check is gone. And he goes f takes e5. And I go knight e3. And he goes g5. Pawns are marching. And I go knight takes c2 check. And he goes king f2. And I go b6. And I felt that, like, I really wanted to get my bishop out on the long diagonal, but that move was a bit too slow. If I was going to have a regret, it was maybe that move for a while. But, you know, it still ended up having a nice structure there on that side. It wasn't terrible, but I needed to be a bit quicker because he never stopped. h5. He goes h5. I go bishop f5. Oh yeah, because now I need to protect. The thinking is that if he does these exchanges of pawns, or if he takes my g pawn, I can take back with the bishop, and then that way he doesn't have a double attack on the h pawn. So he goes bishop h3, getting rid of my plan. So I take. I didn't want him to take me and ruin my pawn structure again, which I should have done. I think probably I should not have taken. He goes bishop. I took his bishop on h3. He goes rook takes h3, and I go rook h8, and that rook dies. He doesn't die, but his spirit has been sucked out. He doesn't move, doesn't do squat diddly for the rest of the game. You know why? Because he goes h6. He pushes that pawn, and I go king f8. Yeah. Because I have to, you know, things are happening. I need to get out of there. Oh yeah, it was an h6 check. Yeah, so king f8, I had to move. And then he goes rook h4. I go c5. Now, you know, I'm sort of stopping him from attacking my knight and pawn at the same time. Taking in an important square, I thought. And then he goes rook f4. And I go rook d8. And he goes e6. And I go knight d4. Oh yeah. Because, look, because then the reason I went knight d4 with everything happening is because he goes e takes f7, and I go knight f5 to block his view of that pawn so that I could eat it. Maybe I could eat it. Maybe. So yeah, e takes f7, knight f5, blocking the view. Just wait. Then he goes knight e5. And I go rook d2 check. Give a check, why not? And he goes forward. He goes rook f3. I thought he was king f3. I thought he was going to go back, but he takes that one square. I should have maybe continued the checks. No. You know what? I think I might already be lost at this point. His attack was just too good. But, I mean, it was hard to find. But he found it. So, sorry, I digress. He goes king f3. I go rook d6. Because now there's just so many things happening. And he sacrifices the rook. He goes rook takes f5. Wow. And I'm like, well, I have no choice but to take back. That was an awesome move. G takes f5. And then he goes king f4. He just marches in. He just pushes all full steam ahead. Very instructive, amazing attack that this guy. This is the young gentleman that I'm pretty sure the time. I've played him once before, and I'm pretty sure it was the time that I hung my bishop in one move. So he was expecting an easy game, which I thought I was winning, honestly. I thought I was going to win again. And that's when you know you're going you can't just chill and think you're going to win, because there's no time to think about that till the game's over. Anyway, so he goes king f4. I go rook takes f5, because I don't know what else to do, which was a terrible move, because he goes g takes f5, and now my king is totally pinned. And then he goes, then I have to go rook g8. I'm zugzwanged. I had nothing to do. I could have started pushing pawns, which I start to do now. He goes f takes g8 equals queen check. That's the longest thing I've ever had to write. Look at that. Look at that. Rook. Oh, don't even bother. F takes g8 equals queen check. That's a lot of little digits for one little move. And I go king takes g8, and he goes king takes f5, and I go king f8, and he goes king e6, and I push a pawn for fun, and then I see my doom encroaching, and then I resign. Wow. I was up a rook. I almost didn't survive the opening. It was touch and go there, and I'm sure he wanted that to go smoother, but I survived the opening, and then it came down to tactics after that. That's what I'm saying. If you can see your possibilities, it's more important than the opening itself. You know, I can see what's going on. How am I supposed to prepare for an open King's Indian that exactly like that? The open variation or whatever when they take it. I don't know, my friend. I think it's more important to just have a clear head and see what opportunities. My goal now that Magnus is making chess 960 a big thing. He's doing this tournament, and it's like a real valid option. Chess 960. It looks like, at least that's this one tournament, I'd say a success that he's doing, because it's fun to watch, and every position is wild and different. So forget opening theory. Just see what you can find with the pieces on the board. Play chess. Don't just prepare to out memorize chess. You don't want to be the master of memorization. Because there's too many. What are the absurd numbers for the amount of possible ways that chess can go? As number of stars in the sky or grains of sand on the earth, stuff like that. You never know what you're going to get. Just like that box of chocolates. So just work on that vision. I'm glad that I got, I didn't do no one move blunders. That's all I wanted. And I succeeded at that. I just slowly got squeezed. I got squeezed. My pieces, my rooks, I was up 2 rooks. When he sacrificed the rook, I'm like, well, great. Now I got 2 rooks. And it was too late. It was already too late at that point. I thought being up 1 rook, if I could just have managed to. But he knew that, and that's why man, what an instructive way to just close down an opponent. It was cool. I think I could learn some stuff from that attack that he did with the pawns. No fear. Man, tempo's wasted. No, I'm wasting tempo, so he can push his pawns, and they weren't wasted. Every piece was valuable there. My king was totally trapped. I couldn't get him out. We'll see what the engine says. I'll be interested to see if there was at what point was it lost, especially with that rook when he sacrificed the rook. Wow. Okay, that's it. I don't need to go on forever and ever. It was a cool game, just as fun. And yeah. He was 1,500. So another guy out of my league, just by a bit. Just by a bit. You know, I could have, just by a bit. I'm working on it. Okay, anyway. Okay, goodbye. Okay, bye. Okay, bye.